up and down like some stop. Spit it, watch me flop. This industry ain't giving no props. Kicking the dope up the ops. We thinking outside the box. We coming up on some loot. First our vision, move with skill, precision, focus and shoot. Up and coming like the sun when rising deep into my mind and see what kind of person I am. Maybe we got something in common. Time is ticking, time to get it. No bullshit, take a listen, see how we sparkling and glisten. Omnipresent, can't you feel it? I'm up, I'm coming, I'm still coming. My cloud of vision, so I'm coming. I'm coming, I don't lost all my fear. I'm coming, what you get is what you get. I'm coming, I'm still coming. My cloud of vision, so I'm coming. I'm coming, I don't lost all my fear. I'm coming, what you get is what you get. Welcome back to Up and Coming. I'm your host, Javerick 100 Trillion. We have a very informative show for you today. Something dealing with a topic that we all in our community, every community, especially the Black community, we need to be informed about, and that is HIV and AIDS. And today joining us, we have the RN, registered nurse, Ada Figueroa. She's coming to fill us in because this is her lane, not mine. So she's going to answer some questions that we all may have, plus tell us some things that we may need to know. Before we start today's show, for those of y'all that are watching via YouTube, make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel, BlakCrown Soundz. Besides YouTube, you can also catch us via your Roku device on VizD. That's VizD, V-I-Z, that VIZ.D. All right. That's visual dramatics on your Roku TV and your Roku device. Also, you can catch us on www.BlakCrown.com. That's BlakCrown, crown.com. All right. All right. So, and before we get started, I'm going to shout out a couple of our supporters. You know, we have Born to Be Rich Collection, you know, Teach Renee doing her thing. They're Born to Be Rich. And also New Dynastic Era Carpentry. For those of y'all that are in the Atlanta area, you can hit up New Dynastic Era Carpentry. That's NU Dynastic Era Carpentry. And for all your home repair needs, we got it all. And as far as Born to Be Rich collection, clothing and apparel, and we ship all over the U.S. And another thing before we get started today, on behalf of BlakCrown Records and BlakCrown Apparel, and also Up and Coming, which this is, if you like what you see and you like to see some more content or more better content, feel free to donate. We're not asking for anything, but donations are welcome. You can donate via Cash App through $Crown378. $, Crown378 via Cash App. $CROWN 378. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get into today's show. Tongue-tied here because we have a lot of questions for the young lady, and I'm sure she is ready to answer them. All right, so here we go. Hello. Let me change my view here. All right, there we go. So, Miss Figueroa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm well. Thank you, and welcome to Up and Coming. So, before we get started, I did tell him a little bit, not too much because I don't know too much, but I want you to fill them in. So, first introduce yourself and kind of let them know what we're going to be talking about.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ada Figueroa. I'm a registered nurse, and I take care of people who are living with HIV. I've been doing this since about 2016, and I really enjoy the work, and I think it's important to talk about it because stigma is so big, and it prevents people from communicating about the importance of getting on treatment, getting tested, and taking care of themselves and being healthy.
Definitely. So what is what is HIV and how is it spread?
Okay. So HIV is the virus that causes AIDS. It stands for human immunodeficiency virus. It's spread through sexual contact with semen, pre-ejaculate or vaginal secretions, breast milk from mother to child, and contact with blood when if sharing needles for injecting blood or through an accidental needle stick through occupational exposure. It is not spread through contact with saliva, contact with tears, or contact with urine.
Oh, okay. So definitely need to know that because I'm sure people thought that all, bodily
Oh,
fluid. Yeah. Uh,
exactly.
so what's the difference between HIV and AIDS?
That's a great question. So, HIV is the virus that does cause AIDS when somebody is untreated. Um, so the immune system is essentially attacked to the point that the body cannot defend itself from things such as viruses, bacteria, fungi, or parasites.
Okay.
So basically, AIDS is the complication if HIV is left untreated.
Wow. So so what is a CD4 cell or T cell?
Okay, so everybody has CD4 cells or T cells. It's part of your immune system. It's a type of white blood cell. In a healthy person, a normal CD4 or T cell count would be between 500 and 1500. And when you are exposed to a pathogen, these cells are recruited by the immune system to fight off infections that are caused by viruses, bacteria, parasites, and fungi. HIV uses these types of cells to replicate or reproduce inside the human body. So I do have a CD4 replica. This is a model of a CD4 cell that is being attacked by the HIV virus. So if this was a normal healthy cell, you wouldn't see any of these little blue things with the red dots. These are the virus. So everybody has a CD4 cell or CD4 cells, sorry. And what the virus does is it attaches to the outside of the cell and injects its RNA into the cell. And so when it does successfully inject its RNA into the cell, then the virus can actually use this as a factory to make more viruses by way of the nucleus. And then it expels more viruses out of the cell to attack other CD4 cells and recruit more CD4 cells to be essentially the factory for making more virus.
Wow.
And I'll talk a little bit more about this too when we get to the medications.
Okay. So what is an opportunistic infection?
So an opportunistic infection is an infection, and you probably heard, like, if you call somebody an opportunist, it's somebody who takes advantage of opportunities. So an opportunistic infection is basically just that. It takes advantage of a compromised immune system. So in someone living with HIV who is not under treatment and has a CD4 count less than 200, these opportunistic infections caused by viruses, parasites, bacteria, and fungi, they can cause illness. And for the most part, when HIV was first discovered in the early to mid 80s, a lot of people were dying of these opportunistic infections, and that's what kind of put this infection on the radar of the CDC and the government. So that's pretty much And once you do get an opportunistic infection,
Mhm.
it's considered an AIDS diagnosis. Or if your CD4 count drops below 200, that's considered an AIDS diagnosis.
Mm. Wow.
However, that is reversible these days with the treatment. So you can have a CD4 less than 200 and bring it back up by getting back on medications or getting on medications.
Okay, okay. So I mean, you just mentioned the treatment. So, um, how can HIV be prevented, and is treatment like prevention?
Yes, we actually do use that phrase a lot, treatment as prevention. So if we can get everybody in the world, or not even the world, everybody in the US
Okay.
who is living with HIV on a daily regimen of taking their medications every day, we can stop the spread of HIV.
Mm.
So some of the other things that people can do to prevent HIV is, I don't know if you think back to when the first time you heard of HIV, you were probably sitting in a sex ed class in middle school, but it's definitely not something that we talk about with our families. So one thing that I noted as important is medically accurate sex education,
Mhm.
as opposed to abstinence only education, which is very common in the Bible Belt states, where they just kind of push abstinence and they don't want to talk about what are the consequences if you do have unprotected intercourse or sexual contact. So that's medically accurate sex education. I strongly believe that sex education should begin at home, with our families, with our parents, before we engage in sexual activity. But we both know that that is not always the case, and even more true in southern states, due to stigma within families about the topic of sex in general.
Mhm.
Condoms, communication with your partner, and being undetectable. So if you're HIV positive and you are undetectable, we stress U equals U. So undetectable equals untransmissible. Basically, if their viral load is undetectable. Are you having trouble hearing me?
I can hear you. I just noticed the sound back there, but it's still no problem.
Yes, I think they're doing landscaping outside.
That's fine. I can hear you well.
Okay, so yeah, so we do stress to people newly engaged into care that as long as they remain undetectable and take their medications every day, there has been studies that show that you cannot pass the virus on to someone else through sexual contact if your viral load is undetectable.
Mm. Right. That's interesting. So explain I guess this pre-ep or pre
We call it prep,
prep.
like prepping yourself
Right.
for something. So it's pre-exposure prophylaxis.
Okay.
And that is a medication that you can take to prevent being infected with HIV.
Okay.
So that is something that a lot of health departments in Georgia are now starting to offer. There is a lot of places that people can go to get on this medication if it's something that they think would benefit them. So commercial sex workers would be somebody who is at risk of being exposed to HIV, men who have sex with men. So you'll see a lot of people on that medication if they think that they're exposing themselves to HIV. And I did want to share, let's see if I can share my screen. I wanted to share, oh, I don't think I can share my screen. So there is a website called aidsview.org. It's aidsvu.org. And on that website, it has interactive maps that tell you statistics for your county. It's nationwide, but if you're curious about how prevalent HIV is in your community, you can actually hover your mouse over your county and it tells you how many people are living with HIV in your area. The other great,
I'm sorry. Give me the website again.
AIDSview.org.
AIDSview.org.
It's AIDSVU.org. The other good thing about that website is if you're somebody living with HIV and you don't know where to go for medical care, that will show you the closest clinic where you can go to get on treatment. And the other great thing about that website is if you're interested in PrEP, you can go there and it tells you your nearest PrEP provider. So there's a lot of great things about that website for people who need to get into care or want that PrEP for prevention.
Okay. So that's in the state of Georgia, or is that website, or is that nationwide?
That is nationwide.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So if you're moving from one state to another and you're in care with an HIV provider and you want to see where you should go when you move to your new state, you can actually make that appointment ahead of time so you don't fall out of care or run out of medication.
This is some information that we need out there. A lot of people living with it. A lot of people know. A lot of people don't know. And shoot, I mean, I know we have a virus that's attacking the world right now, but this is a virus that has been attacking us since we, before we even knew, and it's spreading, of course.
And Atlanta is known to be a hot spot for new HIV infections. And the one thing, I think it was 2018 or 2019, that kind of the tables kind of turned in Georgia, where more of the new infections were actually occurring in rural Georgia as opposed to the metro areas. So that was something that happened in either 2018 or 2019, where we were seeing more new infections in rural communities than we were in the metro areas.
Right. And this is a disease that grows more amongst men than women.
We do see more new infections in men who have sex with men, but as you know, there is a whole culture of men on the down low. So a lot of men who have sex with men may not have come out and maybe living a double life. Maybe they have a wife or something at home. So those infections then carry over to female heterosexuals as well. But it does predominantly affect minorities, Black people, Hispanic people, and those are the new diagnoses that we most frequently are seeing.
Wow, interesting. So, as far as pregnancy and HIV go, is it possible that to be pregnant with HIV and have an HIV negative baby?
Yes, it is. As long as that mother is on medication and undetectable throughout her pregnancy, that's going to be the most important thing to keep that baby healthy. If for whatever reason the mom is not on treatment and she has a high viral load going into labor, most doctors will probably do a C-section just to have a more controlled environment so that there's not any kind of potential risk for that baby to be exposed. But for the most part, as long as the mom is undetectable, she can have a normal vaginal delivery and deliver a healthy baby. Okay.
Well, that's good to know. So what is the biggest barrier for someone with HIV to get into care or diagnosed?
I think stigma and fear. Mm-hmm. Those are, I would say that's the number one. Number two is mental health. Mental health in Georgia is lacking. Mm-hmm. It's not considered your primary care, so you have to go elsewhere. Like if you have depression or if you have schizophrenia, it's not something you can go see your family doctor for. You have to find a special doctor, and that is something that Georgia just doesn't have a good handle on, is mental health. And then substance use. So people who are addicted to drugs, or that is like their primary focus is getting their next fix. So they're not going to be ready to get into care until we deal with those issues first.
Right. Sad. So what? Okay, before I go on to that, can an HIV positive man have a baby with an HIV negative woman and have a baby who is HIV negative? I know that may seem like kind of mixed, but.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, they can, as long as the man is undetectable, because remember, U equals U. So if he's undetectable, he can get an HIV negative woman pregnant, and then they can have a baby who is HIV negative. But he has to be undetectable. That's really the only way.
Has to be on his medication.
Exactly.
But that's the way to be undetectable.
And the thing about that, too, is it's important to note that if he is not undetectable or he has a high viral load, it's not that they're going to have a baby who is HIV positive. It's that he's going to infect that mom. And then that mom then can transmit it to the baby. But he cannot create an HIV positive baby simply because he's undetectable. Because he's HIV positive. Exactly.
Explain viral load to them.
Okay, so viral load, back to this little guy here. These are the viruses here, the HIV virus. So when someone's undetectable, you wouldn't see any of these things right here. Viral load is what determines if their medications are working.
Yes.
So we can get somebody virally suppressed or undetectable in a matter of 4 weeks from the time that they are diagnosed, and we draw their first blood sample, we put them on medications, we check it again in 4 weeks, and the medications nowadays are so good that I've seen people become undetectable in 4 weeks, where before it could take months with the previous medications that were being prescribed.
Science is amazing.
Yeah.
So what are the medicines used to treat HIV, and how do they work?
Okay, so before, back in, I guess, the mid-90s, when the first treatments came out, you had to take multiple medications. You also had to take medications to treat your side effects, because there were many side effects. And now they've gotten it down to all you have to take is 1 pill a day, and that's it. There's hardly any side effects with many of them, especially the newer ones that have come out. So they've managed to kind of make single tablet regimens. So I'll kind of show you here. So like one of these medications will have, this one has 2 medications in it. This one has 3 medications. This one has 2 medications. This one has 3. And then this one has about 4 medications in it. So they've simplified it so much that you only have to take 1 pill a day.
That's smart. Okay. Cool.
And there is a big initiative in the state of Georgia to link people to care within 30 days of them being diagnosed. And so from the time that they find out that they have HIV to the time that they get that first prescription, it's the initiative in the state of Georgia to make that happen within a 30-day period.
Okay.
So, and on their first visit, we actually start them on their medications that day.
So without the medication, it's basically downhill.
Yeah. You start to have those opportunistic infections, and it is downhill. The other thing about I wanted to talk a little bit about opt-in testing and opt-out testing. So before, if you wanted an HIV test and you went to your doctor,
Okay.
you had to have a counseling session and you had to sign a separate consent form just to get that test. So that was almost like a barrier for people. Like they didn't want to sit through that. They just wanted the test. So now the CDC recommends opt-out testing. Basically, what they want is that HIV test is a part of your general health checkup, like getting your blood pressure checked or getting your temperature checked. But how often have you gone to your doctor's office and they've just went ahead and did an HIV test? It's actually not happening. So a lot of new diagnoses occur in the ER or in the ICU where you have all these things happening to this person and you don't know why, and you've gone through all these tests and you just can't figure it out. And there's been some misdiagnosis in hospitals where people are almost on their deathbed. It's very rare, but we still see it, unfortunately. And that's because doctors are not offering that test to people.
Wow. So is there anything that, is it something that they're supposed to request when they go in for a checkup?
They shouldn't have to, according to that CDC recommendation, but Georgia's usually the last to get on board with those types of things. So, a good doctor will go ahead and offer that to you without you having to ask. So if you do have to ask, then they're not really following the CDC recommendation.
Cool. We definitely need to know that. And is there any more that the people need to know dealing with HIV awareness?
I would just encourage everybody to go on AIDSView.org. That's AIDSVU.org. So you can see what the statistics are in your area, because a lot of doctors, just like anybody, think HIV is not in my community. But I do have to say there's not one county in the state of Georgia that has been untouched by HIV. Not one. So I encourage everybody to go there, hover your mouse over your county, and read the statistics. Okay,
cool. Well, I appreciate you stopping by, and we definitely needed that info. And if there's ever anything else you want to share with us, let us know, and we'll hook it up and get it back going,
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. So you enjoy the rest of your evening, and we shall see you later.
Okay.
Peace. All right, people. That's it for today's segment of Up and Coming. We hope that you heard something that could possibly help you or a loved one in the future. Again, that was the RN, Miss Ada Figueroa. And so if you like this video or anything else on this channel, which is BlakCrown Soundz, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and you can also catch us via your Roku device. That's on VizD, Visual Dramatics, VIZ.D. You can also catch us on BlakCrown.com. You know how we usually do. This shirt here, made by one of our sponsors, and that's The Crown Prince, DACROWN Prince, Rhythmic American Poetry. You know what I'm saying? It's that rap music. Yes, sir. Anyways, so you can donate to the channel if you like what we're doing. You can donate to everything that we got going on via Cash App through one particular Cash App site, and that is $Crown378. $Crown378. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Born to Be Rich Collection, you know what I'm saying, and also New Dynastic Era. And big shouts out to Visual Dramatics, man. Tay over at Visual Dramatics, really, really looking out for us. So shout outs to all your entrepreneurs over at Visual Dramatics. Shout out to you paying attention, watching what we're doing, checking out the movement. And man, shout out to the Crown. Shout out to BlakCrown Radio, Slickta, everybody. And right now I'm just running my mouth. It's time to go feed my face. So I'm going to see y'all on the next episode. Peace.